Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another video. This time we're going to be talking about two Dolph Lundgren movies. One being Missionary Man, which came out in 2007, as well as Skin Trade, which came out in 2014. And yeah, this could be a QMR video if you want it to be. I've been doing those kind of often lately. I still like doing actual movie reviews, a little bit more in depth, but again, sometimes this works out better. Full-time job, it's harder to fit the amount of movies or shows I watch a week into separate videos all the time. So unfortunately, this is just the way it has to be. But in the cases of this one and the Gina Carano video I did a day or so ago, I think it kind of fits together. It's not just me throwing in a bunch of stuff I just happened to watch around the same time. Throwing in two movies, starring the same people or that, tied together in some way. And this one, of course, does, with Dolph Lundgren starring in both of them, being personally involved in them behind the scenes. He actually directed Missionary Man, which he's actually directed a number of films, as well as the, Russian Specialist, which I still meant to do a video on. As well as a number of others over the years. He also did mean to direct Skin Trade, but he eventually stepped down from that and stuck to some of his producing work, as well as writing a screenplay and, of course, starring. I've just watched these over the past week or so. Again, continuing my my action movie craze, over the past couple months. And I gotta say, at this point, Dolph Lundgren is easily one of my favorites. Arnold is always going to be kind of my classic action hero favorite. But he's still hard to compare to, action stars like Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, Scott Adkins nowadays, or, even Tony Jaa, Chuck Norris. Just because their fighting styles are different, the way they carry themselves in movies are different, even against, like Stallone and Schwarzenegger are different, like Van Damme and Norris or something, So you can't really compare them necessarily. But I like the martial arts type of guy specifically. My favorites are probably... I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, but it's probably between Van Damme and Lundgren for me at this point. I do really like Scott Adkins, though. I think he's one of the greatest around today, and at this point I do mean to see more of Tony Jaa. Lundgren, I was very, very pleased with one of these movies, and you'll find out which one in a minute here. And the other I was fine with. First, we're going to talk about Missionary Man, though. Like I said, it came out in 2007. It's sort of a kind of remake, or at least like a tribute to a Clint Eastwood film called Pale Rider. And Dolph Lundgren apparently was a big fan of Clint Eastwood when he was younger, like a lot of people were. So I get the idea here. It basically follows a stranger going into town, on this, motorcycle. Don't touch this motorcycle, by the way. All he carries is a Bible, and, he has sort of like this idea of justice and how people should be treated. Sort of his own past vengeance, which isn't fully delved into, kind of drives his sense to protect the people in this, corrupt town. And, of course, he faces some sort of oppressor that's been, tormenting the people and everything like that. And he takes sympathy on, sort of drugged-up kid and stuff like that, as well as their family. That's what it is. And sometimes I don't mind premises like that, whether it's in a movie or a show. This might be a weird comparison at this point, but like a show like Banshee, for the longest time, we don't even know, much about that lead character, honestly, but we end up feeling for him immensely. And he's sort of like this, stranger wanders into town thing, for what reasons we might not necessarily know. So I always think those premises have a certain amount of potential. And I thought this movie was fine. It was alright. He directed The Machinik as well, or Russian Specialist, whatever you want to call it. I do think the Russian Specialist I enjoyed a bit more. But this one is definitely shot in an interesting way. There are some decent shots of like the sun. It feels like it has a certain aesthetic to it, a certain vibe to it that he went for that I think was pretty good. I know he had some issues with, conversion issue from HD to DVD. The picture quality and colors don't match the HD master. That was approved by Dolph Lundgren. So yeah, I can see some lingering issues with that there. I mean, I'm not a master at that, but I can see that might have messed with certain picture and stuff like that. But overall, I think it has a different sort of aesthetic to it. There are some shots I can tell that he was actually trying to set up certain parallels or certain just scenery shots actually pretty good in this one, even though it's a very kind of simple setting. But unfortunately, like The Russian Specialist and certain other movies like this, it does feel a bit drab. It feels a bit sort of bogged down by its own premise and doesn't really do as much with it as I feel like they could have. There are some decent fight scenes in this. I mean, Dolph Lundgren is never really threatened in this movie. There's not really a lot of difficulty for him in this, which is fine, I guess. But again, it's almost like The Russian Specialist, because the main villain in that movie I didn't feel like was ever a threat to Dolph Lundgren either. So it's hard to really worry about him, and that means there's also not really that great of a one-on-one fight scene in this. But you can see Dolph Lundgren mess up a bunch of guys, and there's a couple decent shootouts. He knows to handle a shotgun and stuff like that. And there's some decent acting that goes on between him and the family when he's looking in on them and everything. So not a bad time if you're a fan, but it is a bit dull. It was only an hour and, let's see, IMDb says an hour and 33 minutes. So luckily a lot of these movies like this are short, so that's one thing. But not bad if you're a fan, but there are definitely better Lundgren movies out there, I'm sure, that I haven't even seen yet. So yeah, if I had to rate Missionary Man, I'm giving it about a C or 72%. Like I said, not bad, but just not quite there for me. And then, of course, the next one we'll be talking about is Skin Trade, which I actually just watched. It's still available on Netflix right now, so please watch that while you have the chance. With the way Netflix is going, I'm sure it'll be off of Netflix sometime this year, if not already, or very, very soon. I think I have to look that up again. But Skin Trade, yeah, like I said earlier, Dolph Lundgren didn't direct this one, but it was sort of a pet project for him. He actually took a lot of personal interest in this. If you guys haven't, look up Dolph Lundgren. He actually did a TED Talk. So look up the Dolph Lundgren TED Talk and find out some more about his childhood, and he has daughters, and he actually got pretty emotionally invested in the story that they're trying to convey here. Of course, it has to do with human trafficking, sex trafficking, that kind of thing. And for an action movie especially, but a movie in general, I felt like it was pretty mature in the way they portrayed such a vile issue that we have in this world, and what those people actually go through. I felt like it was pretty good on that end. And a lot of those scenes are definitely uncomfortable to watch, even when at the beginning you just see this girl being sort of dragged and taken and stuff like that. So they're very honest to it, but it's not to the point where they're distasteful of how much they show or anything, luckily. So there's that side of it. And Dolph Lundgren's character, he has a family. Unfortunately, his wife is killed near the beginning of the film. And it's not a spoiler, it's part of the setup to the movie. But his wife is actually played by Tassia Tellis, who I'm a big fan of for her work on The 100. Could not find a proper image of her on Google for some reason in the movie, but here she is here at the premiere. And she was very good in the brief role she had as Dolph Lundgren's wife. And his daughter is, apparently killed as well. And the whole scene there, I felt it, it's very hard. It was hard for me to watch because they conveyed the emotion, sort of just like the vibe of it all. It was very violent and definitely felt real, not sort of just there, didn't feel like just a setup. It felt like it had the weight it was trying to say it did. And I gotta say, Dolph Lundgren himself, there's definitely other movies of his I gotta see. But it's maybe the best acting performance I've seen from him in a movie. Of course, he has the physicality down. Of course, he's getting older. He's 61 right now, so he was in his late 50s when he did this. And you can tell he's older. I'm sure his body's been through shit. So you can tell he can't move like Tony Jaa or something. So I'm sure he had to use a stunt double here and there, but he does a lot of his own work in this one as well in the fights, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But just acting wise, I think he nailed it. There's some good intricate emotion he shows with his eyes when what happens to his family happens. And when he sees some of the children a little bit later, I feel like he did a good job with that. And because I think Dolph Lundgren actually cared so much personally about the message and theme of this movie, brought out the best in him. And Tony Jaa is a name I hear a lot about in the martial arts genre. He's in that new movie, Triple Threat with Scott Adkins, Jai White, and a bunch of other people. He did The Protector and some other things. I definitely got to see more of him. But he is a very, very talented individual, let me tell you. Next to Scott Adkins, I'd say Tony Jaa here is probably the best physically, athletically, with what he can do in a fight scene that we have today. And as far as acting goes, I think he did pretty well too. I mean, he's not, the most fluent with English, but he delivered his lines fine. I think he could have been an even bigger star, say if he was around in the time of like Jackie Chan or something. I could have seen him having success like that. But as an actor, I think he has a kind of like a genuine conviction to him. His delivery, he feels like he means what he's saying in his actions, and he was pretty good with his eyes as well. So I was fairly impressed by him too. And I really like in the movie, they're trying to work to a similar goal. Lundgren's sort of out on a personal vengeance. So is Tony Jaa's character as well. His girlfriend's gotten involved with this, but it's more of him kind of more trying to do the right thing. So they're coming at it from different angles, different perspectives. Lundgren has a little bit more personal investment in it than he does, maybe. But, they end up colliding. They end up thinking the other's on the wrong side of things, especially Tony Jaa's character seeing Lundgren as this guy wrapped up in everything, this, definitely physical, barrier he has to get through. And it leads to just a great, great fight scene between the two. It's probably within the last 40 minutes of the movie. And there is a climax, towards the end, but this is definitely the highlight. Just very hard hitting. Both guys got their licks in. They definitely played on their fighting styles more. They played on the fact that Dolph Lundgren's like double Jaa's size, but then they played on Tony Jaa, of course, being faster and more athletic and everything. But Dolph Lundgren, he nails some good kicks in this one. You can feel like the power when he hits, and he only uses his knees and everything. And they go for some good shots in it too. Excuse me. They have some wide angles where you can tell, Lundgren and Jaa are actually doing this together. And in IMDb, you read that Lundgren said this is the most difficult sequence to shoot in the movie. You can tell because they put a ton of effort into it. And definitely the highlight of it for me. Ron Perlman, of course, is also in this film. Definitely a big name to have in this. It's because, though, Tony Jaa and Dolph Lundgren were doing so well together. For like a snippet, I almost forgot about Ron Perlman being in it. But he's kind of our main antagonist for the film. Of course, I love Ron Perlman. Everyone loves him from Hellboy, but I think he's incredible in Sons of Anarchy, and he always sticks out in any role he's in. He's our main bad guy here. He has a Serbian accent, which is, pretty good. When he's talking louder, he does fine with it. When he talks slower, he definitely just sounds like Clay from Sons of Anarchy, which is fine, because he sounds damn cool. But he gives a pretty good performance here. When he loses one of his sons at the beginning, he actually gets to instill a bit of emotion into that, even though he's the definite, scum of the movie. I also like how the landing was a bit surprising for me as well. It had a bit of a grim touch to it that I wasn't expecting, but it also got pretty touching at the end of Lundgren and stuff like that. I don't need to talk all about that right now. Michael Jai White is also in this, who I think is probably the most underused star of the movie, maybe. He's wearing a suit the whole time, glasses, which is kind of funny. But he has a pretty good fight scene with Tony Jaa. You find out he's involved with it more than he thought he was. But I think he can be used a bit more. I'm a bit bothered that I didn't get to see Lundgren and Jai White fight each other. But, the one with Jaa was worth it, I guess. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed Skin Trade. It was definitely my favorite of the two. And along with Showdown in Little Tokyo, which is a very different film. Showdown and now Skin Trade are probably my favorite movies of Lundgren's. Still got a lot more of his to watch, but definitely those two are it for me at this point. I just think it had the right feel to it. It had some really pretty nice acting to it at times as well. It was shot well. It looks like it had a decent amount of money put into it. So yeah, if I had to rate it, I'm giving it an A, or about a 92%. Yeah, I thought highly about it. Just very, very good if this is the kind of movie you're into. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about both of these. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.